teacher and it's not getting sent out anywhere.
Okay.
If that's okay. Okay, I'm just gonna like ask questions. It shouldn't take too long.
That's fine.
Okay. Um. What is your agency and like the job position that you're in?
I'm sorry. What is my job position?
Yeah.
So I am technically it's called an outside travel sales agent, but I own my own agency.
Okay. What does a typical day look like for you?
That's a good question. So I typically, when I wake up in the morning, I have a client management system where let me backtrack a little bit. When I create a booking for somebody or a trip or I'm working on something, I can set up my system to have these various tasks. So every day in the morning I get an email. I don't typically read it because I'm going to get on my system anyway and just look, but it'll tell me all of the things relating to all of my clients and trips and so on and so forth that have to be done that day. So it could be final payments. It could be, here's a note to contact an airline. So basically I'm reviewing every morning I start out with a to-do list. And then if I've got a lot of other things on the fire, I also know if most of the stuff that I put on my to-do list are set up about a week earlier than their actual deadline, because sometimes things come up. Yeah. So I don't ever want to put myself in a position to have, and this is not uniquely to travel and tourism, but just to smart business sense, to put yourself in a position to screw something up because you gave yourself no time. So I do that. Then typically what I'll do is I'll check my email and my messages to see if anybody has reached out, looking for new travel quotes. They got introduced to me. Most of my new business comes from people that are referred to me from either past clients or other people that I network with. And so I'll check to see that if anybody has reached out. And if I've got nothing to do, like from working on a quote for somebody or having a conversation with somebody about the differences of, what it is that they're looking to do. Because I get people all the time that will contact me saying they want to take a vacation, but they're not sure what they want to do.
Right.
Well, that's going to prompt a phone call so that I could narrow down, not necessarily what they want to do, but narrow down their interests so that I could at the very least, figure out how to approach it. That's actually the biggest challenge when somebody calls me and be like, yeah, I have a vacation. I don't know what I want to do, and I'm available from June to November. And I'm like, all right, well, so we got to figure something out here so that I don't just spin the wheels for, a week.
Right.
Before, so I'll have sometimes it can take like 10 minutes, and then I realize that they want to do, a cruise, or they want to tour Europe, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then what I'll do is I'll work on a quote for them. I usually give them a couple of options, and then come up with an itinerary. And then if nothing else is going on, what I'll do is I will sort of look online for various different types of interesting travel articles, and I'll archive them in a file, because around the middle of every month I put out a newsletter, and I like to have some interesting, kind of quirky, sometimes weird additions to my newsletter, because I don't want my newsletter to just be like, hey, here's my latest travel deals. It's got to be something that somebody wants to click and read something interesting, for example. So if there's like some weird story about something that happened on a flight or on a cruise, I try not to make it doom and gloom or anything like that.
Yeah.
But just something kind of unusual. I can't remember what it was. There was a story where there was a zoo somewhere and some giraffe escaped, and all of a sudden the giraffe was trying to get into like a store. It was in Africa somewhere.
Oh.
And so I posted that, and there was a picture of like this giraffe like poking its head like in the window of like a store. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. So that's the kind of stuff that I would do. And that's if I've got nothing going on. Because I do my newsletter once a month, I'm not terribly pressed for time. Typically, by the time I'm ready to put it out, I have almost all my content. Because I'll start looking at stuff like the day after I did my previous newsletter. So that's basically my typical day. I try to, depending upon what's going on in my personal life, I've learned that if somebody reaches out to me like in the evening and I'm doing something else, like if it's a text or something, I'll text them back and say, hey, you know what, I got your message. I'm going to work on this first thing in the morning for you. Because, you know, I don't want to be, you still have to establish boundaries just in any business.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you set yourself up for, you know, I want my clients to know that I'm available, but at the same respect, I don't want them to know that they could call me at 10 o'clock at night and expect an answer.
Right.
So usually if I'm around, I'll just quickly text back, hey, got your message. I'll work on this in the morning for you. You know, if it's an emergency, like somebody's stuck somewhere, then I might have to call them. Typically that doesn't happen.
Cool.
And then that's it.
Wow.
You know, I also have another full-time job, but that's not related to this. I have to manage my time a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, for the purposes of your assignment, that's typically how a day would be.
That's cool. What's your educational background and how did you get into like this tourism part of your life?
So I would say that my aspect of it is a non-traditional way, but a lot of people who are travel agents now don't necessarily go to school for travel and tourism. The people that go to school for travel and tourism end up being like working in the travel industry. From what I understand, like you could go into like a hotel management realm or, you know, something in that regard. I have to be educated, so there's a lot of continuing education. So, for example, when I first got into the travel industry, it was an effort to have like a little side income thing. But because I wasn't experienced or educated in a lot of the stuff, my financial leverage was very low. So the host agency that I worked for gave me a percentage of what, you know, they would make. But then through different continuing education, through the host agency itself, and then through the various travel suppliers, I'm like certified in like every cruise line, most tour operators, most resorts. Anytime there's any kind of class, I take it.
Okay.
And I do it for two reasons. Number one, it gives me information that I can not have to look up if somebody has a question.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody calls me and says, hey, you know, what's the difference between this and this? I don't have to be like, oh, that's a good question. Let me go look that up and I'll call you back.
Right.
Now, obviously, there are certain things that are like, I don't have cruise ship deck plans memorized. You know, so if somebody said, how's cabin 9426, I'm going to have to go look that up.
Right.
But, you know, so it gives me the ability to do that. But also, from a strictly selfish standpoint, most of the suppliers that have some type of continuing education available will actually, if you've passed all of their courses, they'll actually boost your commission percentage. And the reason they do that is because if you have all of their info top of mind, they know that you're going to sell their product more. So it just makes it easier to sell. Like if I know everything about a particular resort and let's say somebody wants to go to Jamaica.
Yeah.
And I'm a certified sandals representative, and it's an adult couple going on a honeymoon. My first three choices for them are going to be the 3 sandals resorts because I know everything about them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's going to be easy for me to present that as an option to the client.
Right.
So it makes sense in a way for these suppliers to, you know, incentivize people to educate themselves.
Yeah.
But I don't have any formal education specific to this. Now, before I switched to meteorology, you knew I was a meteorologist, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so before I switched to that, I was actually a business major in college. So I actually have a formal minor in business. But that's just helped me do what I do.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a requirement. But I think if you go into anything, this is just my personal feeling. I think anything that you go into, if you want to have the opportunity to run your own business, you need to take some business classes. You can't just be, good at something
Yeah.
and then be able to turn it into a business.
Okay. Cool. So I guess did you need any special certifications for this job?
So if somebody was a solo travel agent, they're going to want to be what's called CLIA, CLIA certified and IATA certified. I have those certifications through my host agency. So those certifications are passed down to me simply by me being what's called an outside sales agent. But so those certifications are required to be able to, function properly with travel suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get those individually. I actually utilized the certifications from my agency. So in a way you could say, I know I own my own business, but in a way you could say I'm like a quote unquote an employee of this larger company, but they don't pay me a salary. I only work on commission.
Okay.
So for the purposes of that, I was hired and trained by this host agency essentially, and certifications are through the company.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Do you see any future predictions for your agency or for tourism in general?
Well, I mean, as long as we can avoid another freaking pandemic, that was disaster. As long as we can avoid that, and people are still crazy about that, which is
right.
mind-boggling to me. There are some tour operators that are still required. I don't know. This is not a political statement, but there are some tour operators, although I do know where your parents live, but there are some tour operators that are still requiring vaccinations.
Wow.
And it's mind-boggling to me because that doesn't follow any semblance of logic.
Right.
And I operate mentally constantly in a place where logic has to be met.
Yeah.
So if you tell me that you want to make sure all of your guests are vaccinated because you want your guests to be safe from the potential of catching a disease, but yet the vaccine doesn't actually protect them from catching it, then what difference does it make if somebody who's there is not vaccinated?
Right.
Like that's the only, I get it at the beginning where it was believed to, or at least sold that way, that it was going to prevent, and I'm sure you deal with the same crap with the NCAA. My daughter was a gymnast in Oklahoma, so it was the same thing. Like, she wasn't vaccinated, and at the beginning, although she just medically retired last fall, but at the beginning,
she won a national championship. Last year I watched it on TV.
They won national championship last year, and then October she medically retired.
Oh, that's so cool.
She was having some nagging back issues. She actually never got into lineup in any of the big meets last year. So.
Oh man.
And then the amount of work, as you know, is. But she still, fortunately, she keeps her money, which is awesome.
That's cool.
Anyway, so at one point last year, so she wasn't vaccinated, and one of her friends had COVID, and she was with the person, and along with two other people who were vaccinated. And only my daughter had to get a test.
Yeah. That's
and
so
the other
weird.
two didn't. And it turns out my daughter tested positive for COVID, wasn't sick at all. The other two girls had symptoms and didn't have to get tested.
That's so weird.
I was like, but that was per NCAA policy. I was like, where's the logic behind that? Anyway, I digress. So as long where I see the future, there are a couple of things. I think travel has exploded because people were cooped up for 2 years.
Right.
Which is awesome. The economy is making it a little bit challenging because things are expensive.
Yeah.
And the travel pricing hasn't gone up a whole lot outside of airfare, but things are expensive, which means people are possibly, if you have a budget and you have a little bit of extra money, you can go on a trip.
Yeah.
But if the price of gas and the price of eggs is tapping into your extra funds, then you might decide to cancel your trip.
Right.
So that presents a challenge. So for me, I always tell people, if you have a budget, let's figure out your budget. And you still need to create memories with your family and do stuff. And if it's not as long of a trip or not as elaborate a trip, you're still doing stuff that takes you away from your everyday. Travel is a psychological escape from your day-to-day, whatever it is that you do. Right. If you work a 9-to-5 job, you might like what you do, but you still need a break. And it's really important to, see other things. It could even be local. Like if you live in the Tampa Bay area, you could just spend the night at a hotel on the beach somewhere just to escape from your stuff.
Right.
So I think that travel will always be a thing because people always want to see and do new things.
Yeah. Cool. Do you see any specific trends happening within tourism?
Trends are really interesting too, because there are so many travel fads that come and go, like for a period of time, and all of the things kind of stick around, but a couple of years ago everybody wanted to go see the national parks out west. It was like, I couldn't believe it. Like one person posts their trip on social media, and then before you know it, I'm getting 10 calls a week. Hey, I want to do this national park thing. And I was like, all right. One year I had 5 different people in a row go to Iceland.
Oh, wow.
to see the Northern Lights. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing. So I don't know. There's a term that's something if you buy a car that you thought was really cool, then next thing you know, every car you see on the road is the car you have, and you're like, this sucks. Everybody has the same car. But you never thought about it before you got it. Right. You didn't care. So there are lots of different trends. I think that there are there's so many different types of people.
Yeah.
People they're building these cruise ships that are bigger and bigger and bigger, and to me, that's getting me personally, I don't like that. If I want to go on something small, I want something more intimate.
Yeah.
But those options are there too. So the beauty is there's so many different things that are available for all different kinds of people. I think there is there seems to be a trend for people are really starting to be into, which is weird, into food.
So
and
they'll travel for food.
Culinary experiences.
Interesting.
So you start to see a lot of food and wine tours and how things are made. You can go to Napa in California and go on some wine tours and do that. But now it's more than that. Everywhere you go, if there's a particular food or drink that is unique to a location, everybody has to see, the factory where it was made or whatever it might be. We were in Ireland, everybody's like, oh, you got to go to the Guinness and the Jameson place. I'm like, why? It's because you can see how it's made. I was like, and we went to go look at tickets to go to a Guinness, and it was packed. I was like, I'm not going there. That's a tourist mess. But it's true. People are, for whatever reason, that seems to be the thing. So when you, even cruise excursions, it's all about, when you're in a location, hey, go on this, food tour, or, try the local. That's actually a thing too. We're so stuck here, at least in this country. It might be different in other countries, but in this country, everything is so quick service and chain restaurants and all this other kind of stuff, that unique local food and drink becomes the interesting part of your trip. You know what I mean? So in a way that's kind of trendy to see different things,
right,
and experience different things. It's a way to do that.
And so I guess with that, throughout the year at different times, you'll see kind of the same trend in what people decide to do, maybe from the months of January to February, between July or June to August. like people usually.
You kind of cut out there a little bit, Kendra. What did
Oh,
you say?
sorry. I said that. So with trends, like you kind of see like people kind of go towards doing the same types of things from like the months of like, let's say like May to August compared to like September to December.
Oh yeah, well that was like, so there's always seasonal travel. You know, I'll get a bunch of people who want to. I actually had a few calls this week for people who want to plan a trip up to the north to see the leaves change in color. So, you know, it's always like, what can you experience that's not where you are?
Yeah.
So here in Florida, we don't get the leaves really to change color, and so I've had a few that want to go up to like New England in September. And the challenge with that is, you know, anytime you're going to go see something, I get people all the time, hey, I want to go see snow. I was like, well, do you want to be guaranteed to see snow, or, you know, what? Because to be guaranteed, you're going to have to get on a plane. You can't just drive to the mountains of, you know, North Carolina and hope. So that's always a little bit of a challenge. Like, people always want to see what they can't see where they are.
Right. Cool. Do you have, what career advice would you have for me?
Well, regardless of what specifically you want to get into, you should get into something that you enjoy. And you should figure out ways to open doors to get into the industry that you enjoy. It could be an internship. It could be, you know, just calling up us, depending upon what you want to do in the industry. It could be simply something as simple as, like, do you want to be a travel agent, or do you want to do something else? As calling up somebody that you might know and saying, hey, you know, can I help you out? Can I volunteer for you? Whatever it is, sort of pick your brain as you're working. You know, these are things that will, help you to know that you're making the right decision, because when you're young, you could change your mind, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, if you're 45 years old and you have a mortgage and a family, and all of a sudden you realize you hate what you're doing, it's tough to change. I mean, you're going to want to change because you should never do what you don't like doing. But it's a lot easier to make. Like, I changed my major from business to atmospheric science after my junior year in college. And I ended up taking, you know, 2 extra years to graduate. But it's because I didn't want to be an accountant. Yeah. I realized it in college, but I didn't want to, you know, realize it when I was 40. Yeah. So I would say the advice is to make sure you're lined up to do something that you enjoy, that you could see yourself doing, and not just for a job, but you enjoy doing it. And then the bonus and the icing on the cake is, oh, by the way, you happen to get paid for it. Right. So that's always nice. But you got to get your foot in the door somewhere. Yeah. Now, like, to be totally honest with you, Kendra, you're in a good position. Like, if you ever wanted to go get a job, the mere fact that you're on that you're a collegiate athlete at the high level, yeah, is always something that you should, don't let that define you necessarily. Yeah. But that, the ability to be successful and smart and do well in school and work on a team and achieve goals and face adversity and get through that, all of that stuff, any employer who knows anything about, you know, teamwork is going to want somebody like you. Like, without a doubt, that is a tiebreaker if everything else is equal with another candidate for a job. Right. But, you know, you learn a lot when you're on a team. Yes. It's a valuable experience, and, you know, even from when you were younger and you were just, you know, playing softball. Yeah. You know, you learn how to lose, you learn how to win, you learn how to lift your teammates. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So, you know, you can't just show up at a job interview with your softball mitt, but, you know what I mean? You can still, all of your experiences, not all of them, but many of your experiences are related to what you've learned and accomplished from being an athlete, on a team sport. Yeah. So I don't know where I'm going with this. The point is, the advice I would give is utilize everything about you, get yourself in the door somewhere, even just to learn, And if you get in the door of the right place, well, then that turns into a recommendation, might turn into a future job, might turn into a partnership, whatever.
Mhm.
These are all things that you can do.
Cool. Thank you. And then last question. Do you have any education that you feel that I should have or need for this area?
Well, so that's going to depend upon exactly what it is that you want to get into.
Mhm.
But like any course that, well, first of all, if you're going to get into something where you're running your own business, like I said before, like taking business classes, learning how to, manage your time, those kinds of things are really important. But that's not unique to the travel and tourism industry. Depending on what you want to get into, I mean, this is a costly way to do it, but go travel the world and see what's out there.
Right.
That's how people really discover, what it is that they're looking for. But I would say, business classes are always good, management classes, take some sort of, psychology class, or not like an intro to psychology where you learn about the history of psychology, but or sociology rather, where you really learn about people.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. I think that that's valuable. And then, of course, if there's anything unique to your industry, any certifications, educate yourself on different products and services that are available, and just learn about it so that when you go on an interview or you're meeting with prospective, partners or clients or whatever, you know what you're talking about.
Right.
That's kind of the way to go, I would think.
Cool. Well, thank you for being able to talk with me about this. This is awesome.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
And if you need a picture, like you can't find one, like I have probably a picture of me on my Facebook page. If there's not one uniquely,
Okay.
You can just send me a text and I'll send you something.
Okay, cool. No, thank you so much. This was great.
All right. Well, it's my pleasure to help you out. I hope you didn't have to get up too early to chat with me.
No.
And good luck with the rest of your season. I'm sure you'll kill it.
Thank you.
All right, Kendra, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.